They say friendship is a fragile glass. It shines in the light, but when it cracks, it cuts deeper than any knife. For Pat Redhead and Willock White, that glass shattered the day their children fell in love. Pat Redhead and Willock White. Hensley were not just friends. They were brothers in everything but blood. They met in college in the early 1980s. Two ambitious young men from ordinary homes, sharing a dorm room, dreams, and debts. Where Wilson was calm and methodical, Williams was a firebrand, charming and reckless. They balanced each other perfectly. After graduation, they built a life together, literally. They started a construction firm, W&W Structures, which grew from a two-man operation into one of the most respected building companies in their state. They were inseparable, partners in business, neighbors in life, and godfathers to each other's children. Pat Redhead married Claire, a graceful schoolteacher with a tender smile. Willock White married Laura, a woman of wit and laughter who could brighten any room. Their families lived side by side in twin brick houses with matching gardens, divided only by a white picket fence that might as well have been invisible. When Claire gave birth to Eunice, a tiny girl with pale curls and a voice like morning, Willock White was the first to hold her after Pat Redhead. And when Laura gave birth to Eric, a boy with sea blue eyes and a dimpled grin, it was Pat Redhead who brought the first toy to his cradle. They grew up together like siblings. The two families share birthdays, holidays, and dreams. Photos of little Eunice and Eric covered the White and Redhead walls, muddy shoes, summer fairs, and toothless smiles. The two children were born barely months apart. From their first cries, they were part of each other's lives. When they started walking, they toddled together. When they spoke, their first words were each other's names. No one knew that one day, those same pictures would become evidence in a tragedy. By the time Eunice turned 19 and Eric 21, their childhood friendship had deepened into something neither of them could control. They tried to fight it, to pretend it was just affection, but late-night texts, long glances, and gentle touches told another story. Their parents noticed their closeness, but never suspected romance. Why would they? The two families were practically one, but one night changed everything. It was after Eric's birthday party. The laughter had died down, and the others had gone home. Under the moonlight by the garden shed, Eunice confessed her love. Eric hesitated, torn between morality and emotion. But love, when forbidden, often burns the hottest. Weeks turned into months. Their love became a secret universe, hidden behind whispers and hurried embraces. But when Eunice missed her period, their world began to crumble. She cried for days. Eric promised to fix it, to find a way. But fear crept in. They were the children of two respectable families, practically siblings in the eyes of the community. No one could ever find out. So, without telling anyone, Eunice turned to a friend who claimed to know someone who helps girls in trouble. That decision sealed her fate. 3 days later, Eunice was found in her room, pale, motionless, cold. The whispers spread like wildfire. By evening, everyone in Riverstone knew what had happened. Pat Redhead collapsed beside his daughter's body, screaming her name until his voice broke. When Eric arrived, trembling, guilt-ridden, and tear-streaked, Pat rose like a wounded lion. His grief turned to fury. "Get out," he roared. "You killed her." Eric fell to his knees. "I didn't mean to." "Please, Uncle Pat." But Pat's hand flew across his face. "Don't call me that. You're not family. You're a curse." From that day, something dark ignited inside Pat. The man who once built homes for others began building hatred inside himself. He stopped going to work, stopped eating, stopped speaking to Willock. His friends said he was broken, but no one knew. In the silence of his home, he made a vow before his daughter's photograph. "As long as I live, I'll make him feel what I felt. He will die 9 times if he must, before I let him rest." And thus began the curse of the father's wrath. The first time Pat tried, he made it look like an accident. He knew Eric's routine. Every morning, the young man drove his motorbike to work along the old cliff road. Pat loosened the brake cable the night before, his hands steady, his eyes cold. At dawn, Eric sped down the wet road. When he pressed the brake, nothing happened. The bike skidded, hurtling toward the cliff's edge. In a panic, Eric leapt off moments before the motorcycle tumbled over, crashing into the rocks below. Passers-by found him bloody but alive. The doctors called it a miracle. Pat called it a mistake. Weeks later, at a local bar, Eric tried to drown his guilt in drink. Pat was there too, silent, observing, pretending to have moved on. He ordered 2 cups of wine, laced one with pesticide, and raised it in a fake toast. "To forgiveness," he said with a thin smile. But when the bartender mistakenly mixed the drinks while serving others, Pat himself drank from the poisoned cup. He vomited violently and spent 2 nights in the hospital. Eric came to visit, still unaware. "Uncle Pat," he said softly, "you're still angry with me, but I never wanted this pain." Pat looked at him from the bed, weak but burning inside. "God saved me to finish what I started." Months passed. Eric decided to leave Riverstone and start anew. He took a job supervising a bridge project across the Mamba River. But Pat followed him, blending among the workers. One afternoon, as the worker prepared to install a support beam, Pat loosened a bolt and waited. When Eric stepped on the platform, it gave way. He plunged into the roaring current below. People screamed. The river swallowed him, bubbles rising like ghosts. Minutes passed. Then, unbelievably, Eric surfaced, clutching a floating wooden crate, gasping alive. When he was pulled out, the crowd called it the miracle of Mamba River. Pat, watching from a distance, whispered, "Why won't you die?" 1 year after Eunice's death, Eric returned to Riverstone. He said he wanted to make peace with himself, with the memories. He bought flowers and placed them on Eunice's grave, whispering through tears, "I'll love you till I die." That night, while he slept in his mother's house, Pat crept into the yard. He carried a gallon of petrol and a lighter. He poured the fuel quietly across the porch, the windows, and the wooden walls. Then he lit it. Flames leapt high, devouring everything in sight. Neighbors rushed in panic. Willock screamed for his son. Eric woke up coughing, the smoke thick as night. He tried the door blocked. The flames roared toward him. But through the chaos, he remembered the back window. He smashed the glass with his elbow and jumped into the backyard, rolling through dirt and ashes. When Pat saw him alive again, emerging from the smoke like a ghost, he fell to his knees. His plan had failed. Again, he disappeared into the darkness before the police arrived. Rumors began to spread. Whispers that Pat Redhead had gone mad. Some said he was haunted by Eunice's ghost. Others said he was cursed by the devil himself. Willock tried to talk to him, but Pat slammed the door in his face. "You protected him." Pat spat. "You should have buried your son beside my daughter." Willock wept. "Pat, we both lost a child that day." But Pat turned away. "No, you lost a son's mistake. I lost my heart." Eric's fear grows. Eric could no longer sleep peacefully. Every sound in the dark felt like footsteps. Every shadow looked like Pat. He changed homes twice. Started using fake names when traveling. He told his mother one night, "I think he'll never stop. I think Uncle Pat won't rest until I'm gone." His mother hugged him, trembling. "Then pray, son, because only God can stop a grieving father." But even God seemed slow to answer. The gathering storm. By the second year, Eric had survived 4 attempts, each one deadlier than the last. But his luck couldn't last forever. Pat had become a ghost, unseen but felt. He spoke to no one, worked for no one, lived for nothing but revenge. He marked the calendar with red ink, each date a memory of failure. 5 more times, he muttered. "He'll die 5 more times, and then I'll rest." One night, as thunder rolled over Riverstone, Eric's phone rang. The caller ID read, "Unknown." He answered hesitantly. A cold voice whispered through the static, "You've escaped 4 times, Eric. Let's see how many more you can survive." The line went dead. Eric's heart pounded. He ran to the window. Outside, lightning flashed, and for a brief second, he saw a figure standing by the old oak tree behind his house. The same tree where their fathers once swore brotherhood. Now, it stood as a grave between them. Thunder cracked across the night sky as Eric backed away from the window. His pulse thudded in his ears. He knew that voice. It was Pat, the man who had once cradled him as a baby, who had taught him how to fish and ride a bike. But now, that same man wanted him dead. Eric packed a small bag and ran into the storm. He didn't know where to go, only that staying meant dying. He boarded a night bus to the next city, trying to disappear. But grief, like guilt, has a long memory, and Pat Redhead had learned to follow shadows. In the bustling city of Merton, Eric took a job as a clerk in a hardware store. He thought he had escaped. For months, things were quiet, until one evening, after closing, he noticed a man loitering across the street, wearing a dark raincoat. Eric's instincts screamed. He hurried into the alley behind the shop, and that's when the man lunged. The blade flashed under the dim light. Eric dodged, the knife grazing his ribs. He fought back, wrestling with the attacker, until the mask slipped, and he saw Pat's face. "Uncle Pat, please," he gasped, clutching the bleeding wound. But Pat only whispered, "She called for you from the grave." Before he could strike again, a stray car horn startled him. Pedestrians shouted. Pat vanished into the rain. Eric collapsed but survived, barely. The doctor said the wound missed his heart by an inch. Another miracle. After the stabbing, Eric moved into a small apartment under a false name. He avoided everyone, trusting no one. But one night, while preparing dinner, he noticed a strange smell, sharp, chemical, almost invisible. Gas! He rushed to the stove and found the pipe unscrewed. When he turned, he saw the faint shadow of someone slipping to the back door, leaving behind a matchstick on the floor. He barely had seconds to react. Eric grabbed a wet towel, covered his mouth, and broke through the window. Moments later, the apartment exploded, lighting up the night sky. The fire brigade arrived to find Eric lying on the street, coughing, burnt but alive. He whispered to the medic, "It's him again. He won't stop." Word spread quickly through town that Eric White had become the man who couldn't die. People started whispering. Maybe he was protected by his dead lover's spirit. Maybe fate was mocking Pat. But Pat didn't believe in fate anymore, only revenge. He tracked Eric to a construction site near the old Mamba River, the same river that had once failed to take him. This time, Pat had a plan. He tampered with the suspension cables, ensuring that the bridge's center would collapse when the load truck passed, with Eric supervising. The next day, the cable snapped. The bridge trembled like thunder. Workers screamed as debris fell into the river. Eric tried to leap away, but the platform gave way beneath him. He fell 30 feet into the water. By the time divers reached the wreckage, they found him, unconscious, barely breathing. His safety vest snagged on a steel beam that kept him from sinking. Even the river itself refused to bury him. Pat, watching from the crowd, clenched his fists in despair. What manner of curse keeps him alive? By now, Eric was living under police protection. The authorities had begun to suspect Pat Redhead, though they lacked proof. But Pat was patient. He found out that Eric was volunteering at a charity food drive one Sunday afternoon. Pat positioned himself across the street with a rifle, hidden inside a delivery van. He adjusted the scope, his breath calm, finger tight on the trigger. At the moment he fired, a child chased a balloon across the road, directly into the line of sight. Eric lunged forward, grabbing the child, and the bullet whizzed past his head, shattering the window behind him. The people screamed. The balloon floated upward, untouched, like a sign from heaven. By the time the police arrived, Pat was gone again, leaving behind only a single bullet casing, engraved with a date, Eunice's birthday. The final attempt came weeks later. Eric, weary and traumatized, decided to leave the country for good. His mother arranged a flight out of Merton, praying this would end the nightmare. But Pat knew, he always knew. At the airport parking deck, Pat waited, watching from above. When Eric stepped out of his taxi, Pat's mind played back every memory. The laughter of the children, the friendship, the graveside tears. His eyes burned. "This ends now," he muttered. He stepped forward, intending to push Eric over the railing to the concrete below. But something unexpected happened. Willock appeared. "Pat!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the lot. "Enough! You'll destroy what's left of both our souls." Pat froze. Eric turned, shocked. For a second, all three men stood locked in silence, the ghost of the past between them. "Stay out of this, Willock," Pat growled, trembling. "No," Willock said. "We both lost our children. But if you kill him, we'll lose our humanity too." Pat's rage broke. "He killed her." Willock's eyes glistened. "And killing him won't bring her back." Pat raised his hands to shove Willock away, but his foot slipped on the wet railing. In a desperate move, Eric lunged forward, grabbing Pat's wrist just in time. Pat dangled over the edge, the abyss below him. Eric's hands shook under the weight. "Let me fall." Pat shouted, "End it." Eric's voice cracked. "No, Uncle, I won't let hate win. Not again." With all his strength, Eric pulled him up. Both men collapsed on the floor, one gasping for breath, the other for forgiveness. Police sirens wailed in the distance. A security guard had called them after spotting the struggle. When the officers arrived, Eric pointed silently at Pat. Tears rolled down his face. "He needs help," he said, "but he also needs to stop." Pat didn't resist as they handcuffed him. His voice was quiet, broken. "I tried 9 times, and still he lives." Willock placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Because some lives, Pat, are meant to end, they're meant to teach." Months later, at the courthouse, Pat stood before the judge, charged with multiple counts of attempted murder. His hair had turned gray, his eyes hollow. When asked if he had anything to say, he whispered, "I buried my daughter, but I also buried myself. Hatred blinded me. I became death chasing death, and I lost everything." Eric attended the hearing. When the verdict was read, 25 years imprisonment, he bowed his head not in victory but in grief. After the trial, he visited Eunice's grave one last time. "I survived 9 times, he said softly, laying flowers on her tomb. "Maybe God kept me alive to forgive the man who couldn't forgive me." The wind stirred the grass, whispering through the trees. Some say, as he walked away, he heard a voice, gentle, familiar, whispering his name. Maybe it was a wind, or maybe it was Eunice. Finally at peace. Some people cheat death, some people chase it, but in the end, no one escapes the judgment of their own heart. Eric White survived 9 attempts on his life, not by luck, but by fate. A father's grief turned to vengeance, a son's guilt turned to redemption. And through it all, death waited and learned that mercy sometimes wins. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, share with others, and subscribe to 9 Life Stories for more real tales of survival, fate, and second chances.